right, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joshua Weisel here in the Weather 225 Storm Studios. We've got our eye on the sky this afternoon and this evening, even into portions of tonight, as some strong to severe storms may be possible across the area. This afternoon, it's going to feel like the last several days, hot and humid, as we've got that combination of humidity and also the heat. So take it easy out there. We do have some heat advisories for parts of our Oklahoma County coverage area. And it doesn't surprise me that we have that today, because ahead of the storm activity, it's going to be warm and it's going to be humid as Mother Nature's kind of turning up the thermostat, if you will. And we've got another warm day ahead of maybe some cooler weather. And that cooler weather that I mentioned is going to be associated with the front that's going to bring that active weather to our area later today into tonight. In fact, once it moves through, lows are going to dramatically drop in some areas back into the lower to mid 60s. Now, the further south you go, it's going to be a little bit warmer, as that system's not quite going to make its way all the way through many areas, but it is going to be notably cooler compared to the last several mornings. In fact, it was a warm start to the day today across the area. So this is going to be one of the headlines, but I know the headline that's on everyone's mind is going to be the risk for some strong to severe storms. Now, let's kind of show you the setup and break it down. This is that front that's going to be moving through. Notice it's a pretty potent system, as there is going to be a risk. There actually has been already strong to severe storms across the Midwest, and Iowa, unfortunately, is seeing the brunt of that. Same with portions of Illinois, and there have been some pretty nasty storms in this region. In fact, it's so concerning with the risk in this area. Storms have not quite made their way closer to the Chicago metro, portions of northern Illinois, far eastern Iowa, and that's where we do have a higher end potential for some strong to severe storms. Not quite the highest risk on our scale, but it is pretty concerning there. And you can see pretty active weather for a large portion of the country, as it does make its way all the way down into portions of our North Texas coverage area. Not the higher end risk, but just the risks in general, low to medium, even a risk further to the east. As you can see, New York City, Richmond, Virginia, some of these areas along the northeast coast are also under the gun for some severe weather today. Now, as we make our way closer to home, here's a look at what it means in terms of our severe weather risk for today. Now, the latest update since this morning and overnight is the fact that they did push the medium risk further into the river valley. So, again, this is why we were saying yesterday, don't look at that map yesterday and think, oh, yeah, we're not going to see severe weather. These forecasts can and will change. Now, this is the tricky part about our job. Obviously, there's a scientific factor to this job where you have to put the science and the knowledge and put that all together. There's also a social science aspect to this, because I don't want you to see that you're in a lower end risk on the scale and think that you're completely clear, or not in a risk and you may not see anything at all. Mother Nature's tricky, because there's a potential that you could see storms outside of those areas. There's a chance that, in some of these risks, you may not even see a whole lot of activity to begin with. There's going to be a line of storms that makes its way into parts of the area, and it's kind of back and forth whether or not it's fully intact. And the reason that's important is if you get some lone, discrete activity with a broken line, there may be some taller updrafts supportive for that larger hail. We'll need to watch that. So basically, area-wide today, I want to keep our eyes on the sky this afternoon into tonight. Not everyone's going to see severe weather, but it's one of those things. It's summer. I know there's a lot of people that like to camp in portions of Northwest Arkansas, River Valley, Southwest Missouri, even in Eastern Oklahoma. And we want you to be aware, hey, if you're going to be in an area that, may not have the best cell coverage, if you're planning to be outside this evening and tonight, you're going to want to stay plugged into the forecast, because we got some active weather on the way. So that's a look at the risk there. Let's go ahead and break down the risks here and start with the rain chances. So overall, for the majority of today, rain chances are not going to be around until, I'd say, maybe around the 4 o'clock mark. And the timing really hasn't changed. I think the earliest storms could develop in our western counties would be 3 o'clock. But I think the activity should start to initiate right around that 4 to 5 o'clock mark. So we're going to go a little bit early with those times, and then it's going to just gradually make its way further to the east. And as it does so, it'll continue into the late evening, into the early overnight. So it's going to be a broad timeline, but remember, we cover a pretty big area. And so, 4 o'clock for the entirety of the region, I'd start staying in tune to the forecast, or, staying, in tune for if we have any sort of alerts or anything like that. So again, not everyone's going to see severe weather. I don't want you to overly worry about this, but I don't want you to downplay this potential either. So that's a look at what we've got with the rain chances. Here's a look at what we got with the rain totals. And if you remember what we showed you this morning and even yesterday, Some of our western counties, there's going to be some activity that kind of lingers in the same area, and you're going to get some training activity. So further to the west and to the southwest, you can see that's where we're going to see greater range totals in terms of the activity, because it's going to kind of, as it's looking right now with future scan radar, it may just kind of train over the same areas over and over and over. And in those cases, there could easily be some localized amounts of 2 to 5 inches of rainfall. Not everyone's going to see the 5 inches of rainfall, but there could easily be a couple areas that you see repeat activity, and it's going to lead to some issues. Generally speaking, for the entirety of the area, the flash flood risk today is going to be right around the medium range, as there is the likelihood of a couple tenths of an inch to 2 inches of rain area wide, but some of those locally higher amounts could be 2 to 5 inches. So again, not everyone's going to see that. It's just something to be aware of. Here's a look as we break down the severe weather risk. Overall, we're all under a medium risk for the majority of the area. Yeah, we have a couple of counties that are not quite into that medium risk, but just generally speaking, area wide, we are in the medium zone. Now, what does it mean for the individual risks? Now, as you take a look at the tornado risk, it's not zero, but it's on the lower end of the scale. But I still want us to stay plugged into the forecast today, regardless of the risk, because there could be a couple of storms that may be a little bit more on the significant side. Now, we're not, talking the most historical outbreak or anything like that, but you could easily get some storms that produce some golf ball size hail, 60, maybe 70-mile-per-hour winds. And then again, we can't rule out the tornado risk either. We'll have to keep an eye on all of these things tonight. Again, I don't want you to worry about the risk. I don't want you to panic seeing this, because not everyone's going to see severe weather, but the ingredients are there. We know that there's a system coming through, and we just want you to be prepared that there could be some strong to severe storms. Here's a look at the timing. Notice this is around 6:54, but that activity started closer to that 4 o'clock timeline. This is in northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri. Gradually makes its way into portions of northwest Arkansas by the time that we get to around 10 o'clock to midnight tonight. And then as we head into tomorrow morning, that's when we've got more activity. But notice it kind of lingers in some of our southwestern counties there. We'll need to keep an eye on that activity. Here's a look at the future scan hail outlook. And notice, here's a look at what we've got. Right around the quarter to all the way up to maybe ping pong ball size, maybe close to golf ball sized hail will be possible, but we're not seeing those oranges pop up with those updrafts. Now, when you look at this, I don't want you to think it's for sure going to hail in Fayetteville. This is a model that's taking into account all the ingredients and kind of what would be supportive in terms of the updrafts for hail size. So don't take it literally where it's located. If we get some of those individual updrafts, you may get a couple of spots that, if it's a little bit more of an embedded supercell, or if it's a broken line of storms, you could easily see some storms that tick up a little bit larger than quarters. I'd say maybe half dollar ping pong ball may be the more realistic outcome, but there is the potential, especially in eastern Oklahoma, for up to golf ball sized hail today. So that's a look at what we've got there. And again, eye on the sky today. It's not necessarily an alert day, but I just want you to stay plugged into the forecast, because a lot of people think because it's June that it's just dry summer weather. We don't have anything going on. That's actually quite the opposite. The first couple weeks of June are actually kind of the downtick in terms of spring storm season. And you can see we've got active weather on the way. The other thing too, we mentioned it earlier this morning and also yesterday, was there's below average temperatures forecasted over the next 6 to 10 days. And you can see, yeah, it's looking a little bit cooler. Some of these mornings into the upper 50s, lower 60s. And so we'll keep an eye on the forecast here. Moral of the story today: stay plugged into the forecast. Again, I don't want you to overly worry about the risks that we have. I know if you have severe weather anxiety, some of these things, they sound scary. The reason that we're bringing this to your attention, and the beauty of the platform that we have here, is traditionally, with a lot of the weather segments and stuff that you see, across the country, it's right around 3 minutes. And so here, I know it's a little bit longer, and you may or may not want to hear me ramble on and on and on, but we're able to break down the individual risks and give you all the information that you need, so I can break down, hey, here's the individual risks, here's the timing, and do a step by step with you so you can kind of plan ahead and not worry. So that's a look at what we've got with the 7-day forecast for Arkansas. Let's get into Oklahoma and show you same thing. Again, this is generally the timing in terms of the day. Later in the day, earlier into the morning, as these storms could start to wrap up, I'd say by early tomorrow morning. So, later this afternoon into portions of the overnight, stay weather alert, have ways to receive alerts. And the other thing, too, here's a look at Southwest Missouri. Some of those mornings are actually going to be nice and cooler. I may have to pay a visit Monday and Tuesday into Southwest Missouri for some of those morning lows into the 60s and 50s. That's not looking like a summertime forecast, to say the least. So, may have to pay a visit there. And then finally, as we wrap up this forecast segment, I just want to let you know we are here in the studio all day today. If any warnings are going to be issued, we are going to be live right here in the Weather 225 Storm Studio, streaming on YouTube, our website, on Facebook. We are going to be streaming wherever to make sure that you are plugged into the forecast. We want to make sure that everyone is tuned in. So we will be doing coverage if storms develop and they go warm. So keep it right here with Weather 225. Again, not everyone's going to see storms, but in the event that storms occur in our coverage areas, we'll be here covering those very closely. Have a good one, and stick around. We'll have the latest updates here today. You can advertise with us this storm season and throughout the year. Contact us today for availability and pricing. Weather 225 since 2015. If you like our media and forecast, be sure to support us today on Patreon.